Hey there, Emma here, and in 2023 I hosted a painting challenge called Dogtober where we painted a different dog breed every day of the month. You may have seen some of the clips that I posted on Shorts at the time, just showing like a few little clips from each painting, but I've decided to go and pull out the real-time footage and share them this year so you can follow along if you'd like to. A couple of disclaimers/explainers. The point of the challenge for me was that I wanted to try and loosen up. I'm a realistic portrait artist, and so I gave myself a smaller size to work with as well as a time frame. I'm painting on roughly about A6 size paper, which is pretty small. In terms of measurements, that's like roughly 10.5 centimeters by 14.8 centimeters or 4.1 by 5.8 inches. And I also tried to set myself a time limit of about 15 minutes. I really wanted to challenge myself to loosen up, but you can approach this any way you like. Maybe you'll do it in a different medium or a certain color palette. The options are endless, totally up to you, but you're more than welcome to follow along, and these are kind of like mini tutorials. I do want to point out though that as this was unusual for me and a challenge to me, not all of them are that good. I really struggled in the beginning to start loosening up, and particularly struggled with the long-haired dogs. But you know, it's an adventure and you'll see me progress through the month and learn a lot. If you want to grab the outline sketches, I have put all 31 sketches into a document, a PDF that you can download from my website. I will link that in the description. You'll just need to pop your email address in, which will sign you up to my mailing list, but then you'll get the document with all 31 outline sketches, roughly about the same size that I'm painting. You're more than welcome to print them, trace them, size them up or down if you need to. I'll be working with my usual set of supplies and mixing colors as well, but I will talk you through the process as we go. Let's jump in. Day 9 of Dogtober, and we are painting a bull terrier. I had to choose a side profile photo for this one because they just have such a unique head shape. They look like a shark to me. But anyway, we are going to get some more interesting colors on our palette this time. I am starting with some primary red, and I'm leaving a little bit of that there so we can use that. And then I've also added a bit of primary blue to some of that to make a purple. I'm now mixing up some primary yellow and red to create a bit of an orangey color. And so we're stepping out a little bit more from our standard orange and brown. Don't get me wrong, both of those colors still feature in this painting, but we've got some more interesting light washes and undertones that we're going to do in parts of this portrait. So I've got a little bit of blue now adding to my collection of colors on the palette, and we are all set to get started. We are going to do a little bit of wet on wet to start with. I know I've mentioned in a couple of these that I should have really tried to steer away from that and just really, instead of like layering things up over time on different layers and wet on wet, like I think to have it look more loose, avoid that and just do like flat washes of color and build it in a different way. But anyway, I'm going to start off by painting some blue down the back of the neck. So we want to kind of tuck that around the back of the face, which we've kind of like cordoned off there to be a different color. So that should be in your outline. And we're just going to take the smallest amount of blue behind the ear and then fade that down with water. Then what we're going to do is create an orange shadow on the bottom and invite that up. So we are basically working in the same area, the same block, but I tried to do them separately and be really controlled with my water because I didn't want these two to mix together and turn muddy. I was really trying to have the shadows look orange on the chest and look blue behind the ear. I didn't want it to all turn to brown. So I've taken that orange a little bit more intense on the bottom and invited that up, and then it's still kind of pale and plain in the middle. We are going to do a little bit of a pinky purpley color. Oh, I've just made it more pink. I thought I'd turned it purple. A pinky color on the inside of the ear. So I'm getting rid of some excess because we don't want that to be really crazy intense. We just want it to have a little bit of a wash there for now. So popping that there, if you take it outside the bounds of the inside of the ear and you end up accidentally painting the whole ear, it doesn't matter. We are going to carve that in later with a darker color. Also taking a wash of that color along the snout. So the white patch along the nose, we can put a little bit of pinky color there. They often have quite pinky noses, I find. And we're going to paint like the bottom jaw a purpley color. We don't leave it like that. We're not going to leave it looking bruised or weird or like it's eaten a tub of blueberries or something. We are going to cover that up a little bit with some orange color later but it just leaves a bit of like a little tinge of it shining through, makes it a little bit more interesting. So tucking that under the top jaw, just the bottom we're painting in at this stage. And we just kind of fade it up into the head with a little bit of water. It doesn't matter if you end up with a harsh line there. We are going to paint colour on the face that is much darker than all of these little areas. And then we will dry those off. So a little bit different now. We've got a few different dogs popping up throughout the rest of the month, and we can, stray a little bit from our normal colours and techniques. I've reactivated some brown on my palette now. If you do not have any and you haven't watched any of the previous tutorials, we make brown by mixing up orange with primary yellow and red, which I also have a separate puddle of, and then we add some blue. So adding blue to orange will neutralize it and turn it brown. If you see a wrong color peeking through, mine is often green, just add more red, add whatever color is opposite it on the color wheel to neutralize it. I'm now taking this color, it's kind of like a mixture of the two of them, a bit of a tanny color, and I'm outlining that ear, and that's where we're really carving in that pink, and see how much more it stands out now than when it was just on white paper. I'm tucking that color behind the ear, and now we're going to really carve the face shape out, and that's also cutting out the blue and making that a little bit more obvious as well. Adding a little bit more water on the face to take it a little bit more watery down the very top of the head. We're excluding the far ear. We are going to paint that in on a separate dry layer. A little bit of orangey color along the cheek, so keeping it more brown on the ear and the left side of the face, and then we are bringing it over in more of an orangey brown color. Nice and dark along the top jaw. We're just going to leave the bottom one for now that we had painted purple. Carefully taking the color around the eye, as we've done with pretty much every Dogtober painting, I think, we are excluding the eye and we paint that on separately just to make sure it stands out. So they've got like such an elongated face, and so this eye isn't really round looking, it is quite elongated as well. So just make sure you allow enough space there to keep a really sort of narrow looking eye. Gently bringing that color down a little bit, dipping into some more brown, and now we are going to sketch in a little bit on top of the jaw. So I've put some color down the very tip of the mouth, and then I'm fading it out to the back of the head with more of a watery mixture, and that's just going to let some of that purple still shine through without completely covering it up and making that a pointless activity that we did. Mixing my colors together on the palette and creating a bit of a dark purple for the nose. A different nose this time. We're really just not even worrying about nostrils. We're just painting in the patchy nose. So again, they have like really cool noses where they're quite just patchy looking. I hope that it's intentional and it's not like a skin issue or something like that, but we are just going to replicate that and paint it in on the very tip of the snoot, very flat, very patchy, not worrying about nostrils or anything like that. And then we will dry it off. Now with this same purpley mixture that we just used on the nose, we are going to just shade the inner ear. And we didn't want to do that before drying off because we might have let it blend accidentally with all that brown and orange nearby. But a little bit of color right down the bottom of the ear, and then fade that upwards with your brush and water. I've left a little sliver of pink color peeking through on the left. And now with an orangey brown mixture, I'm painting the far ear in now that all that head is dry, and we know that that's going to be locked in and stay there. And it's good to make that a little bit darker than the top of the head. It's just going to help it stand out and look more in the background. I'm dotting some little whisker dots on the side of the face, following the angle of the head as well, so they're going quite up towards the top left. I'm going to remove a little bit of a highlight on the nose, just on the very tip there, just to give it a bit of dimension, because we're not doing things like putting in the nostrils or the shine or anything like that. So we want to make it look a little bit less flat, so I've lifted off a teeny little bit. And with an orangey brown, I would say go brown on this. We want this to stand out from the head, so I'm adding some color here to make it darker. So we want to fill in that eye gap there. I didn't see any reason to leave a white border or anything around it, which we've done in previous ones. I think it's just so narrow. I filled in the whole gap. With this very same color, I'm putting in some little markings on the face, whether that be, you know, just shadow under the eyebrow, on the cheekbone. It is a bit intense, I will say. I think you could probably go a little bit lighter than this, or just do a bit more transitional colours in between them, because it does come off looking a bit just like stark. But I've gone around an eyebrow, created like a kind of a cheekbone by popping a little curved shape under the eye. And now I'm shading the top part of the jaw as well, and just kind of trying to blend that in with water so that it's not so stark looking. It will soften out a little bit, but it's looking a little bit frightful right now. I'm going to dry that all off. A little bit of extra drying in this one. But like I mentioned, I would prefer these looser style paintings, these quick ones, to have as little drying off as possible, and a lot of doing things in one big layer, but you know, such is life. Mixing basically everything together on my palette right now, and I'm trying to get a black color here, something that's going to make the eye, like some of the eye, stand out, the pupil basically, even though I'm just kind of guessing where it is. You can just cheat and grab a Mars black or something from your palette. I just mixed all the colors together and then added a little bit of black to it. I've now got more of a orangey brown color. It's not as dark as what I was doing all around this area before. It's somewhere in the middle, and I'm just adding that to the bounds of all of these shapes, just to try and blend them in a little bit more. It was looking just too stark. I'm also just adding a couple little strokes as well, just in random spots. I've added a little shadow on the neck there that's on the white part of the fur, and another little like curved shape on the cheekbone. Now that that's dry again, I am just adding a little bit of a shadow to the back of the head behind the ear, and I'm also going to shade the far ear as well. Having the far ear darker than the head, it also just helps with perspective and pushes it more to the background so that the viewer knows, oh, okay, that is further away than the head and the ear facing me. I mean, that should be obvious with the size difference, but it all helps. With my 3/0 small detail brush, I've dipped into some white gouache, and I have just added the teeniest, tiniest dot on the front of the eye. Oh, and I did actually just add the smallest dot on the nose as well for a little bit of a highlight, but I think the lifting really did the magic with that one. Now we need to mix up a bit of a black color to paint the collar, and that is it. This is a very quick one. So I like to make a bit of a black color by creating purple with blue and red, and then adding yellow. I find it gets a really just kind of juicy looking natural black color. There's undertones of other colors in there, and it's not too flattening. What we're going to do then is sketch this big thick collar to go around this big thick neck. And so I'm just doing it freehand, and I'm just going bit by bit. See how I'm not just doing one big continuous line? I'm doing lots of little ones that connect up to each other, and this gives me more control over the shape. And you want to curve it around. This dog is not a two-dimensional object that's flat. We want to make it look curved and rounded. So we need to put that into the shape. We don't want to do a perfectly parallel lines. We want them curved. So I've gone and popped that in, and I think I was trying to do like a bit of a buckle at the bottom, but honestly, you could just paint the whole thing in. I don't really think it did anything super exciting for the painting. You might just want to make a shape a little bit larger at the bottom so that it does look like the part that it connects to. But that is our bull terrier. I'll see you in the next one.